If you're terminated in a RIF and you're not retirement age, do you lose your retirement? There seems to be a lot of confusion about this in the comment sections, so I'm going to try to clarify it. So first of all, if you have 25 years of service and you're any age, or you're 50 years of age with 20 years of service, you are eligible for a VERA, a voluntary early retirement. And if you take it, fine. If you don't take it and you're terminated in a RIF, you would be eligible for a DSR, which is like an involuntary VERA, and you would get to keep your annuity, your pension, your health insurance in most cases. But what if you're not eligible for that? If you're retirement age and you have 10 years of service, you're eligible for the MRA. And you can look up your MRA, but for most people, it's age 57. And because you don't have 20 years of service, you would not be eligible for a VERA if they offered it. And if you were terminated, you would not be eligible for the discontinued service retirement if they offered it. But if you were your minimum retirement age, which for most people is 57, you would be eligible for an immediate pension. So even though you're eligible for a full pension at 62, you can get a reduced pension anywhere from 57 to 62. And if you're that age and you're terminated, you would get the immediate pension. But what if you're not that age? What if you're below the minimum retirement age? If you're 50, if you're 30, and you have some years of service, do you lose that pension? No, you do not. Your pension vests after 5 years. After 5 years, you're fully vested, and you would get it when you retire at age 62. So if I was 32 and I had 5 years of federal service, when I reach age 62, I would get 5 years times 0.01 times my high 3 of when I was 32, and I would be entitled to that when I'm 62. Between 32 and 62, it's not a whole lot I can do, but I would be entitled to that. And if I had 10 years of service, so from 22 to 32, I had worked for the federal government, then I left. From 32 to 62, I have nothing. When I get 62, I would be entitled to the postponed retirement. So postponed and deferred are a little different. Deferred is if you have 5 years of service and you leave before your MRA, and postponed is if you have 10 years of service or more and you leave before your MRA. And the big difference between those is the health insurance. So in a previous video, I talked about the health insurance in retirement, and generally if you have it 5 years, you can take it with you when you leave. But if you have less than 10 years service, between 5 and 10, and you are let go in a RIF, you would be entitled to your pension at 62, but you wouldn't be able to pick up the health and life insurance at 62, where you would be able to do that with the postponed retirement. So with the postponed retirement, if I have 10 years of service, let's say I worked from 22 to 32, and I had my health insurance, then I leave the federal service at 32. When I'm 62, I would be able to get the full pension unreduced, and because I had the insurance for 5 years before I left federal service, I'd be able to pick that up again at 62. Even though I didn't have it between 32 and 62, I'd be able to pick that up again because when I left, I had it. And I have 10 years of service, so it's the same thing as an MRA plus 10. What if you're 57 and you have the MRA plus 10, but you don't want to get the reduced pension? You can postpone that and pick it up at 62. So you can change this to this by just waiting and not taking the pension until 62. I'm going to put all the source materials in the description so you can look at them at your leisure, but here's a very easy PowerPoint for you to understand. Hey guys, if you're getting something useful out of this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you'll see future videos, and the Google algorithm will help other people see it. So if you're RIFed, you're let go, you're not eligible for DSR, you're not eligible for VERA, and you have MRA plus 10, which means you're above 57, below 62, you have 10 years of service, what happens? So the VERA and DSR is the gold medal. You don't get that, but you get the silver medal. So if you're 57 years of age and you want your pension right now, you can take it right now, but it'll be reduced 5% for every year that you are below your full retirement, which is 62 for most people. So if I was 62 and I took it at 61 and I had 10 years of service, I would be entitled to 95. If I took it at 60, I would be entitled to 90% of my pension. And if you took it at 57, it's a 25% reduction. But the thing to remember, it's a permanent reduction. So if you start taking it at 57, you're going to get 25% less, and you'll get that 25% less for the rest of your life, which is why some people choose to wait till 62 to take it. And that's where the postponed retirement comes in. So you have the MRA plus 10, but you're going to wait because you want an unreduced pension. Now, unfortunately, even though you're not getting the full pension, because you are eligible for an immediate pension, you're not eligible for the severance. So even if you left at 57 and you're going to wait till 62 to apply for the pension so that you'll get the unreduced pension, you're still not eligible for severance, because severance applies to people who are terminated in a RIF and do not have an immediate pension eligibility. So that's if you have your MRA plus 10. What if you have your 10 years, but you don't have your MRA? So let's say you're 55 with 10 years of service. So you would be RIFed, but you don't get the immediate reduced pension because you're not 57 yet. So in this case, you wouldn't get the immediate annuity because you're not your MRA. You can get it later. You'd have to wait till 62, but you would get your full pension with no reduction, and it would be 10 years times your high 3 salary. You would not get your FERS supplement. So normally, if you retire with VERA or DSR, you would get your FERS supplement from 57 to 62. You don't get that with your MRA plus 10, and you don't get that with a postponed annuity. You are eligible for severance with this because you're 55 years old and not 57. So what's the difference? If you were 57 with 10 years of service, you are at your MRA plus 10 and you're entitled to an immediate pension. It's a reduced pension, but you're entitled to an immediate pension, so you would not get severance. However, if you're being RIFed at 55, now you don't get an immediate pension. So that would entitle you to severance for your service. And there's a video that I did earlier with the pension calculations and how much severance you get. You should take a look at that. But generally, severance that you're going to get, if you're entitled to it because you don't get an immediate pension, is 1 week pay for the first 10 years of your service, and then you get 2 weeks pay for everything more than 10 years. So if I have 20 years of service, I get 10 weeks pay for the first 10 years. I get 20 weeks pay for the next 10 years of service. And if you're over 40, let's say you're 45, for each of those years that you're over 40, you get an additional 10%. And that 10% would apply for the weeks that you're getting credit for that you're over the age of 40. So not the entire severance package, just the payments that you're getting that happened for the years that you're over 40 years old. So back to our prior example, if you're 55 with 10 years, not 5 years, if you're 55 with 5 years, not 10 years, you are eligible for a pension when you get to 62, but it's a little different than if you had 10 years of service. With this one, as before, you're not getting an immediate annuity. You're going to have to wait till 62 because you're not entitled to the reduced pension of MRA plus 10 because you're not MRA plus 10. You only have 5 years of service. So when you get to 57, 58, 59, you're still not entitled to because you never hit your MRA plus 10. So if you left at 55, when you get to 62, you'll have to wait for it, but you're going to get the full pension with no reduction. And that will be based as before on your high 3 times 5 year times 0.01. And for this, you don't get a FERS supplement, but you are eligible for severance because you're not eligible for an immediate pension. And that would be, as we said, 1 year for each 1 week for each year of service. So that would be 5 weeks severance if you have 5 years service. What else are you entitled to? So when you get paid out, some of you will have signed up for a VSIP, a voluntary separation incentive payment. You'll be able to keep that. And the additional payments you get, you're going to get paid for your unused annual leave and your unused comp time. However, you are not going to get paid for your time off awards. Those are forfeited, so you might as well use them up. And you are not going to get paid for your unused annual leave and your unused comp time. However, you are not going to get paid for your time off awards. Those are forfeited, so you might as well use them up. and you won't get paid for your sick leave. So if you were eligible for retirement, that sick leave might increase the calculation for your time in service, but you're not eligible for a pension, but you're not eligible for the immediate pension. So you're going to pretty much lose that sick leave. However, it's still there. And if you decide to take another job with this federal government, that sick leave is going to get reinstated for you if you take another job with the federal government. And what about health insurance? That was a big question, and I did a whole video on that. But according to the OPM pamphlet applying for deferred or postponed retirement, which I will leave in the comments, which I will leave a link to in the description, you are eligible for that if you are getting a postponed retirement but not a deferred retirement. So again, if you had postponed, you have 10 years of service, and rather than take it when you hit your MRA, you're going to wait till 62, then yes, you can get health insurance if you had it for 5 years prior when you left the federal government. However, for somebody with the deferred pension where you only have 5 years of service, you have to wait till age 62 to get your pension, and you are not able to add that on even if you had coverage the 5 years that you were with the federal government. So I hope that clarified some of the confusion that people had in the comments. And I'm going to, as I said, leave a link to everything in the description. And I'm going to give my usual disclaimer. I'm going to give the usual disclaimer. This is not legal advice. I'm an attorney, but I'm not your attorney. And I don't do employment law, even if I was, which I'm not. So this is my understanding of this from going through the OPM docs and Federal Register. And I'm putting this info out there because I went through the VERA and VSIP process last year, and I know a lot of you have questions about this and your HR people are overwhelmed, so I'm trying to put the information out there, and it's for informational purposes, and I'm going to put all the source materials there so you can look at it yourself and decide how it fits your situation. And if there's any errors that I made, just put it in the comments so I can try to correct it in this video or in the comments. But definitely refer to the source material. And if there's any discrepancy between anything I said and the source material, always rely on the source material because I'm human, I make mistakes. So look at the OPM docs and the regulations that I'm providing in the description. And I'll try to do some more videos soon. And if you want to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link, but don't feel like you have to. And like and subscribe so you'll see future videos. Thank you.